I got a comment the other day where somebody was asking if putting their money directly into the stock market would lead to making more money than putting their money into an index universal life policy. And there are so many moving parts and nuances where it is not possible to give a yes or no. It depends, when do you put the money in? When are you selling these stocks? If you're putting in a policy, how long are you keeping the policy? How old are you? There's all kinds of different factors. So it's not a black and white, like yes or no, but I am going to say that there's probably something else beyond that question, right? Because if we take a step back a little bit, if you're currently in a W 2 job and you're making a ton of money, like, is your goal to make a ton of money no matter what it is that you're doing? I think for most people, the answer is no. Your goal is to make money, but also make money in a way that aligns with you actually accomplishing the goals that you want to accomplish and living the life that you want to live. If it's your first time here, my name is Nobu. I'm an insurance broker. If you want to work with me, my link is in the description below. But there is absolutely nobody that I have opened a policy for whose main goal is to make more money than the stock market. Nobody, right? There are various other reasons why people choose to put their money into IULs. I'm going to walk you through what some of those reasons are. But more importantly, I'm going to walk you through some questions that you can ask yourself so that you can decide for yourself whether you should put your money into an IUL or stocks or anything else, right? Regardless of what vehicles you are comparing to, I'm going to walk you through a few things to think through so you can determine for yourself what makes sense. From my experience with having many, many conversations around individuals considering custom cash value policies, the biggest barrier um, isn't about like, is my money growing the most? The biggest barrier really is being confident making a decision for yourself. We tend to outsource our decision making to the news, our neighbors, our friends, as opposed to being able to listen to different bits of information and analyzing that based on what's important to us and then deciding what move to make next and being very confident in that move. And so my goals are by the end of this video, you're confident in a move to either do the insurance or not doing the insurance or do a combination of both, which for the most part, that is what people do. Now, first, let's talk through why in many cases when we're trying to compare custom cash value policies with other things, you can't compare side by side, right? So saying stocks versus IUL, that's like you trying to compare oranges to nuts. I'm not going to say apples to oranges because apples and oranges are both fruit, and stocks and IUL are not the same thing whatsoever. If you're putting your money into stocks, you are putting your money into an investment, right? Whatever money you make in those stocks is going to be treated by the IRS like an investment, and you're going to be paying capital gains taxes on that money, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I have stocks, I have crypto, I have real estate, I have cash for life insurance, right? There's nothing wrong with any vehicle, but it might be a wrong vehicle depending on what your primary goal is, right? And also, it's perfectly fine to have multiple vehicles, but have it categorized or prioritized based on what is important to you. Now, in terms of your IUL, an IUL may feel like or may sound like it's an investment because the interest your money gets is based on stock market performance. But we know that an IUL is not an investment because it is not treated like an investment by the IRS. An IUL has 100% insurance, right? So instead of thinking about it like an investment, which it is not, it is more accurate to think of an IUL as insurance plus savings, right? And your savings get the added bonus of getting an interest that is higher than in a bank because that interest is tied to the stock market, right? And you have the benefit that when the stock market doesn't do well, your money is protected where it's not going to go in the negative. So if it's a bad year, you had 50K in your savings bucket, When the market drops that year, your money is still going to be 50,000. You're not going to get a negative interest rate based on the stock market not performing well. Now, with the person that asked the question about the most amount of money, if your goal is purely, I want to make the most amount of money every single year based on the market, I don't care about taxes, then stocks might be a great resource for you. That's amazing. Go do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, for my clients, like I said, like their goal is not to make the most amount of money with their IUL. There's two main reasons why my clients put their money into IULs. One is a short term, one is a long term. One long term I already discussed, which is the taxes. Because an IUL is an insurance policy, insurance is not taxed by the IRS. So, regardless of how much money you make in that IUL, your gains are not going to be taxed, those capital gains taxes that you would be taxed in the stock market. Whatever money you gain, it's going to stay in that policy and it's not going to get taxed. Amazing. So, know how every single year you get that statement from your bank that says, hey, you got this much interest and you have to pay taxes on that? That doesn't happen in an IUL. Right, so that's one long-term benefit for people that get an IUL. So question number one is, do you care about having your money grow and not having to pay taxes on that money? And if your answer is no, you don't care, then great. An IUL is not for you. If there's other vehicles you're comparing, like the stock market, that may be a better fit for you, right? Depending again on what you're trying to accomplish. So let's go back to a short-term benefit. In that savings bucket that you have with your policy, you have the ability to pull money out. And when you pull money out to use it, the insurance carrier doesn't actually subtract it from your account. It leaves it on the books. It's as if that money never left, but they put money in your personal bank account for you to go do whatever, right? So if you have $100,000, you want to buy a property, you request $100,000 from your insurance carrier, they wire you that money, it's in your bank account in 3 days. However, on the books, you are still getting interest on that money as if it never left. And so what that means is you can have your money working for you while it is still making you money. So now, if that same person wanted to purchase property and they only had their money in stocks, that have to sell those stocks, have to pay capital gains taxes on those stocks, and also those stocks are gone. So there's no potential for that money to grow. It's gone. It's finished. It's no longer making the money. Whereas if they have that money in the policy, then their money gets to keep growing. They get to go purchase the property and they still have their insurance. So many of my clients aren't thinking, well, I'm also paying for insurance and there's a cap on how much I'm going to make in this IUL. They're thinking, whenever I want to access money from my savings account, I get to use that money but still have my money making money for me, right? That's the main pool, and like that's how they're going to end up making more money, by having the money working in two places at the same time and having the capital, having the liquidity to be able to move quickly on opportunities when they're available, right? Now, that doesn't mean that putting your money in the stock market is a bad thing. It does not mean that putting your money in your 401k is a bad thing either. Everything depends on what it is that you are trying to do, right? Most of my clients, like, they're not getting an IUL in order to get rid of their brokerage account or get rid of their 401k. It's in addition to. And for some people, that doesn't make sense, right? So depending on what your income is, how much taxes you're paying, what your goals are with what you want to do with your money, it may not make sense to put your money into a brokerage account and also put it into a cash value life insurance policy, because you just may not have the funds to make that work. And it also just may not be what's comfortable for you, right? You have to pick a vehicle that makes sense based on your comfort level and your personality. For example, I like to be in control of my assets. So while I do have money in stocks, I do have money in crypto, right? I don't control whether the money goes up and down. So it's not where the majority of my money is, right? Some people like to trade, and so they have tons of money in the stocks and they do that every single day. And that's okay. I think my overall arching point here is that there is nothing wrong with any financial vehicle at all. but it might be the wrong financial vehicle based on what you are trying to accomplish. So if you take a step back and ask yourself, what is it that I am trying to do? What is my main life goal? What's the vision of the life that I want to live? And then you can take a step back and with every tool that you're evaluating, decide, does this help me get to my goal or does it not help me get to my goal? For myself, for my clients, a lot of my clients are business owners, they're into real estate, or they have high paying jobs, but they want to supplement their funds for later, but also build up a a nest egg where they're able to invest whenever an opportunity comes up. So in that case, like it makes sense for them to put their money into a custom designed cash value policy like an IUL. So they're able to have that capital available whenever opportunities arise. If you are new to IULs, which many people are, I have this video right here which walks you through the many nuances if you want more details. But the main question you want to ask yourself if you're thinking about getting an IUL is, do I want my money somewhere where it can work for me outside and also still get interest in the policy? Or do I want to stick to the traditional systems where once I use that money, it is gone for good?